For many people, the moment of getting married is one of the most important days in life. In addition to the emotional side, that is often the beginning of a new chapter and can trigger various changes in other areas of life, such as a new home, job, starting a family, or moving to another country. The wedding moment is certainly important because it greatly reflects the marriage itself and its further development in time, its destiny. That's why it's very important to choose the right moment in time that will emphasize the favorable predispositions of both partners and alleviate natal challenges. Just a second. So, electional astrology is a branch of astrology that is used in order to determine the auspicious moments to start something. It can be done for various moments, for various events, for starting a new project, or signing an important contract for an operation, or going on a trip, or getting married. It represents our intervention, making a horoscope by which we influence the fateful course of events and change the inertia that a person carries within himself, which is defined by the natal horoscope, progressions, and transits. In the election, we invest energy and choose the right moment, and it is time and energy that are needed to make a gentle change. So in order for the election to make sense, some general principles need to be followed. First, this event should already exist in the natal chart as well as in progressions and other predictive techniques for that period. Next, it is important to choose a moment with energy similar to people entering into marriage so that they can recognize themselves in it and to make this horoscope successful. The election horoscope should correspond to the event in question and have favorable aspects to natal and progressive horoscopes with as exact favorable aspects as possible. So it's important to look for similar positions of the planets to natal chart. So if people have natal Venus in Aries, they will recognize themselves in Venus in the fire sign in the election chart. Rather than with Venus in Pisces, Venus in Pisces would be in strong dignity, but this would also be an unknown energy for such person. In this horoscope, we try to emphasize what is good in natal charts and that what is challenging we direct to another desired direction. Through this, we also help Natus to realize some potential and goal with which he has difficulties realizing it on his own. It's important to understand that we cannot find the perfect moment in time because the horoscopes itself are not perfect. We just try to alleviate the weak points and avoid very challenging positions. We do this along with slight changes because otherwise the person wouldn't recognize themselves in it. This horoscope cannot completely change the natal predispositions, but only make things better. In creating an electional horoscope, we follow some general principles. We use only applicational and Ptolemist aspects, and the position of the moon in the appropriate sign is also important, and that its first applicational aspect is with the planet in the symbolism of what we want. The first applicational aspect of the moon is with Venus, the signifier of marriage. That Venus itself is well placed in the sign of strong dignity with favorable aspects, if that is similar enough to someone's natal chart, and with a good dispositor and with no malefics in Taurus and Libra. And if marriage were to be associated with travel or life abroad, we will also look that something from the ninth house or Sagittarius is favorably connected. It would be the best that the moon is increasing in light because we want marriage to grow and prosper. We will avoid when the moon and Venus are void of course, and that the Venus as a signifier of marriage isn't retrograde or on the last degrees of the sign, because it would give some difficulties, complications, delays, or secret things, and we don't want that with marriage. It is also desirable that there are benefics in the angular houses, not malefics. So in the first and the seventh house, which describe both partners and the marriage itself, nor in the fourth and the 10th house, because the fourth house symbolizes the final end of the matter, and the 10th describes common goals. Ascendant and his ruler represent the person at that moment, while the moon describes the event through the first applicational aspect. Also, the whole lunar cycle is important here, so we observe the last lunation, the last new moon, which describes the cycle of the next 28 days and the general atmosphere. We also want a good first aspect when it enters the sign that is important to us, and a good last aspect because it describes a good start to what we want, progress in time, and a favorable ending. This means that if we observe the passing of the moon through the sign of Libra, we are looking at the first previous lunation and the first and last aspect that the moon will make in Libra. Also, in order to get a complete being in the electional horoscope, it's necessary to connect in a favorable way the ruler of the ascendant, the moon, and the ruler of the hour, because thus we'll have a trinity of spirit, body, and soul of the event. In addition to the moon, the election should pay attention to other fast transits, so that the Sun, Mercury, Venus, and Mars are well integrated, because only a well-placed moon, which is important in the electional chart and describes the atmosphere, is not a strong enough factor to carry the whole event. Also, when choosing the day of the week for the wedding, in addition to Saturday, the Saturn's day, which is traditionally used, there are several other days that are favorable. Like Friday, the Venus day, which emphasizes emotions and harmony. Thursday, the Jupiter's day, which represents expansion, learning, and travel. Wednesday, the Mercury day, is about mutual communication and interest. And Sunday represents the sun and prosperity and vitality of the relationship. So we want the first and the seventh house to be strong and well connected to each other and to have a good aspect with a well-placed moon. That Venus is strong, Saturn is well placed, especially with the ruler of ascendant, because it describes permanence of marriage, and that Uranus is not emphasized. Also, a good fourth house is desirable as a house of the final end of the matter, that the ruler of the hour is a benefic, especially Venus or Jupiter, if possible, in a good aspect with the ruler of the ascendant, and that ascendant and Venus are in a fixed sign, which would give permanence to marriage. Next, it's necessary that the election is connected with both natals, although often one person is more attached to the relationship, which can be nicely seen through the Davison chart, which I will describe here as well. The first house in the election should describe the person who will be the first to say yes at the wedding. Also, it is good to know that we connect the election horoscope with natals and not with the Davison chart, because it is abstract. It's interesting that people often get married by force of inertia when the atmosphere in the sky is similar to their natal Sirius 7. This will also be considered in this example. So in election, we try to choose the moment when challenging natal factors are in a favorable relationship or to avoid them, while emphasizing what is good. I will first take a look at the natal predispositions for marriage for both partners. Then there are synastic aspects to assess the important points, which I will take into account later when determining transits. Through the Davison chart, I will describe the relationship and see which person is the bearer of the relationship, and as this is important for the later timing. In the progressions and other predictions, I will describe the predispositions for marriage in this year or in that year, and finally, through the transits, determine a favorable date and time for the wedding.